Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is made possible in part by National Real Estate Advisors.
Hi, I'm Jeff Kanne, founder and CEO of National Real Estate Advisors, and I'm delighted to be here on Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch.
Welcome to Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Shine.
And I'm Mitch Berkey, and we have a very special guest with us today, Jeff Kanne of National Real Estate Advisors.
The CEO of National Real
Yes.
Estate Advisors. And let's get right to it right now, Jeff. We're sitting on the top floor of one of your developments, the Ellery at 312 West 43rd Street, and thank you for hosting us here on the premises. Can you tell us a little bit about the building, the story behind it, how you made it happen?
Sure. I think the most interesting storyline about this building is that we were ready to go just as COVID hit. March or April of 2020. We had worked on this for a long time with our partner, Taconic, fantastic partner. We build some of our own stuff, our own development company, and we also partner with people like we did here with Taconic. And we had a big decision to make. New York City was shut down. We had lined up our construction financing. It was an expensive project, nearing $400 million, maybe $450. We didn't know if New York City was going to be open again.
Was that just in construction, or did that include the assemblage of the land?
That was everything.
Everything,
It's actually a ground lease.
Okay.
That's a 100-year ground lease, so we don't own the land, unfortunately. But we, if you remember those dark days, there were hospital ships in the harbor. People were dying right and left here. Those kinds of things I think have been minimized since. People have forgotten how dark, how dire things seem. So I remember having a conversation with our partner. I was in my home office. Nobody was in the office. Video conferencing. People were still getting the hang of, and half the people on the phone call when we were trying to decide what we were going to do couldn't connect and were muted or their video was off, probably including me. But in the end, we had to make a decision. Are we going to start or not?
So how did you deal with that tremendous uncertainty?
Faith. Not religious faith, but faith in the country, faith in our scientists, the faith of any real estate developer. We knew we had a great project. We knew we had a great site. This is a great city. It's not going to go away. We were convinced of that. A lot of people say that, but they don't really believe it. We believe it. We believe in America. We believe in the dynamism of the world today. So for me, it was pretty easy, actually. It's like, yeah, of course we're going to build this building.
Amazingly optimistic in a dark time, which says a lot about you and the corporate culture of National Real Estate Advisors.
A big difference between a quarter-to-quarter approach and a long-term vision.
Very, very different.
Let me ask you, were you able to actually work on construction during the first few months of COVID? Because it seemed that the whole city had been shut down.
And also, what about supply lines? How did that impact?
Well, so I can't remember what our working conditions were here exactly. So we build all over the United States. We had projects going on in many locations. We were building a 1 million square foot tower in Boston at the time. Fortuitously, we had just ordered all the elevators for it. State Street was our lead tenant. But I remember in Boston, we couldn't work for almost 4 months. And they had very strict requirements throughout. Here in New York, it was much less restrictive. In New Jersey, where we were building a tower, it was if COVID stopped at the Hudson, because they let us do whatever we wanted over there. So every place was different. Here, I think it was reasonable that people were using in their common sense. But I don't think we really got started until the fall of 2020, if I remember correctly. But when we finally, one of the motivations for building was, at the time, and taking the risk was, it was pretty clear there wasn't going to be much coming out of the ground, that financing was going to be impossible. We were only able to finance this because of our very long-term, deep relationships that we have. Most other people wouldn't have been able to get financing at the time, or the construction lenders wouldn't have gone forward. So we thought there aren't going to be many buildings that are going to be ready when ours is ready, which mitigates the risk a lot if you believe the city's going to be okay. And we were precisely right. We're rarely precisely right about anything in this business, but we were right. The demand for these units was off the chart. I think we're averaging over $110 a square foot now. We leased it up in no time at all.
What was the timeline from first shovel in the ground to CO?
So we built a lot of projects, so I could get this wrong. We started in 2020. I believe we finished in 2024, completely finished. Okay. Completely finished at the beginning of this year, but we're substantially finished by the end of last year.
As a native New Yorker, seeing a complete block through 42nd to 43rd Street land plot, how did you assemble this?
Well, so Taconic assembled it we were able to do it partly through connections of ours with the landowner.
Okay.
And it actually wasn't that difficult. What was difficult was negotiating the ground lease to do it.
And getting ground lease financing, which is its own unique animal.
Yeah, it's also difficult.
Yeah.
For me, the difficult part was, so I grew up in a really tiny town in Iowa.
By the way, you're our first native Iowan here. I believe
that's true,
yeah,
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
You guys are behind the eight. You guys are behind
seriously, we should have
curve.
had someone before this, but you're our first.
You're number one.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is sponsored in part by National Real Estate Advisors. Transforming real estate for over 2 decades, National Real Estate Advisors builds long-term value through responsible investing, quality development, and strategic foresight.
I've built a lot of buildings, been involved in a lot, so I have a pretty good idea what to do. But this was a little different, right? It's off Times Square. I'm not really liking that very much when I'm thinking about this site, but it's far enough away. I thought, I think it's far enough away. Could feel like a residential building and residential neighborhood. We're going to put the commercial on the Port Authority. That's clearly going to do very well. But I had less confidence in my ability to assess this site than I usually do. Thank God we have a tremendous number of really smart people who work for us, and they're very experienced. We've been together since I founded the company 25 years ago. We have people who've been here from a few months later.
Well, the neighborhood is interesting, I'll just put it that way, and you're right along the 8th Avenue corridor, but native New Yorkers and those in the real estate world know the value.
The commuting from here is the best thing in the world. I mean, you can walk to Penn Station like I did this morning, get on, I don't know how many trains are down there under this site, virtually everything you need to get anywhere you want to go.
So let's go back 25 years of the founding of National Real Estate Advisors, because it's very rare that someone wakes up around when they're 12 years old and says, you know what I want to be? I want to be the CEO of a private equity firm that specializes in real estate. How did we get
There's
to
a journey
that?
here. There's a journey.
How did we get from Iowa to Times Square?
Oh boy. I'll give you a really short version. So I grew up in this little town. I didn't think it was a little town, it was a county seat. We had 6,000 people. We thought we were the big town.
We used to count how many traffic lights determined the size of a town.
And what was the name of the town?
Carroll, Iowa.
Carroll.
And everything's relative, right? So county seat, we were the towners and there were the farmers. I always wanted to be a farmer, but we didn't have any capital to be a farmer, but I still want to be a farmer. I was talking to my wife the other day about buying a farm. it's not going over very well. I built a lot of stuff. I've always worked hard. I like to work hard. I like to work with my hands. So I did a lot of construction work as a kid. I didn't do any homework. I had,
that seems to be a common theme in the
I
industry.
did. I was not good at sitting still. I think
You were a doer.
Yeah, I was a doer, and I could only focus on things I wanted to focus on. And maybe that's still true, I don't know. But, so I've always enjoyed construction. I went to college. I applied to college 2 weeks before college started, so I didn't have a lot of choices.
You finally got to it? You got to the
Well, I
application?
wasn't even intending to go to college. But I decided, yeah, I should go to college. So I went to college, and I worked my way through college. So I would work for a year, I'd go to school for a year or until my money ran out. Then I would get a job or 2 jobs to make some money, go back to a different college in a different state. It was my way of traveling. So I ended up going to several colleges that way. And then I ended back up finally at the University of Iowa. I came home because I couldn't afford to keep doing what I was doing. So I finished there I was a history major. I think of things like an historian thinks of things. And then I went to Peace Corps, spent 2 years in a village in...
How did that come on your radar, that opportunity in the Peace Corps?
Peace Corps? I always wanted to do the Peace Corps. I admired it as an organization. I've always believed people should do national service. I came of age after Vietnam, after Watergate. The military clearly wasn't for me. I don't like to take orders from anybody.
Yet another common theme in our industry.
Yeah, so the Peace Corps seemed like this is a good
I
thing.
see we're molding a profile here.
And which village was this? Where were you in the Peace Corps?
Kurioro Hudia, Senegal, West Africa, in
Wow.
Sub-Sahel. It's a little village.
Did you feel welcome there? How was that experience?
Yeah, it was. I don't know how much time we have, but
No, let's hear it.
here's how welcome I was. So I was the only Westerner who had ever lived in this village or in this part of Sub-Sahel. And we were government employees, and my program was called Automation Rurale. Supposedly, it is a French-speaking country, but nobody in my village spoke French, in spite of what I've been told when I got there. So my French was useless, primarily. So we showed up I was like a political gift. So the governor of the region and the Sioux governor of the region and every big shot who could take credit, who of course had done nothing to make this happen. We got in a big cavalcade of cars and we drove through the desert. And
Were you there on your own or with a group?
I was on my own.
Really?
Yeah, it was a very interesting program in the Peace Corps that has its pros and cons. Drop somebody off in a village where no one's ever been before, teach them how to do things like dig wells, build latrines. I built a couple schools, 800 latrines, which doesn't sound like much, but if you live in a village where nobody has a place to go to the bathroom and you have to go into the desert with a group of people, having a latrine is a really big deal.
That's more latrines than you and I have ever built.
Yeah, I think so. Or been in.
And we all got lined up in the village, and a fellow Peace Corps volunteer who was going to a different village after my drop-off, he was sitting next to me. He didn't have any language skills, unfortunately. It was difficult. And the governor gets up and he tells everybody, what he's done for them. He's brought me this guy, and I'm translating. So I was thinking and not really listening, or was listening, but not really, because I was trying to
concentrating on the translation. Yeah.
And I heard myself saying that this man knows everything there is to know about agriculture, everything to know about medicine, everything to know about everything. He knows it all. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't even know where to go to the bathroom. I know nothing. I barely speak your language. But that was how they perceived me. And I had a beard. And the people I lived with, very interestingly, they only had hair on their head. They couldn't grow beards. So if you had a beard, it was a sign of wisdom, age. It was fantastic. So I had this beard, and they all thought, this guy, he's been around.
So you're the bearded genius who lands in this area.
Yes, that's what they thought. They learned out pretty quickly that I was not a bearded genius.
Obviously, this prepared you for a career in real estate.
Actually did.
Yeah.
But wait, there was a stop in the lumber world, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I did. When I got back from the Peace Corps in the early 80s, late 70s. Things weren't going so well here in the United States. Hard to get a job, and I picked probably the worst possible thing you could do. I became a lumber trader.
Now, what does that mean? What does that even mean?
I bought and sold lumber commodities,
Okay.
not commodities in the sense of paper. We were actually buying stuff made around the U.S., arranging for transportation and then moving it to wherever we
Was this
sold
on the
it.
Chicago Board of Trade? Or?
No. This is the cash market. We were really buying and selling stuff.
Oh, okay.
So
it's not options trading and the like.
It wasn't options trading. So I got back to the United States. I was trading lumber. Interest rates went from 10 to 21%.
If you remember, late 70s.
Remember when all the lumberyard mills came and dumped 2x4s on Pennsylvania Avenue when you could actually drive on Pennsylvania Avenue because lumber was useless. And I went from making $80 a month in the Peace Corps to making $0 a month in the United States. And the only way we could make any money was Jimmy Carter had deregulated the transportation industry, one of the best things that ever happened. But most of the old guys in the business didn't really understand that. And before that, there was a tariff. You bought this much lumber, it cost you this much to ship it from site A to site B. They didn't realize you could actually negotiate now with the trucking companies. So I made my money sometimes I bought lumber and sold it for less than I paid for it, but I could reduce the freight costs enough that I actually made a profit. So it was a great learning experience.
Different kind of arbitrage, that's for sure.
Yeah, but still didn't make very much money. I was keeping the lights on, but it was a fantastic experience. Both those two experiences were very formative for me.
So while you were doing that, was real estate anywhere on your horizon?
I always wanted to build things. Okay. I didn't know how I would do that. I didn't have any money, so it wasn't
You certainly had lumber.
I had lumber, but I had, if you're going to get into business, it helps to have a connection. Somebody has some money. My family didn't have money. We had everything else that a good family could want, but money wasn't one of those things. So I think many people are in this position. They want to build something. I almost don't think it would have mattered what I was going to build, but I wanted to build something that I thought was productive and useful and made people's lives better and gave me a challenge and made my life interesting. For me, I think of everything in an historical context.
That's the history major speaking, right?
Yeah, that's my first love. My first love is the story. What happened, what's happening, what's going to happen next. I don't know, but I always fit myself into, okay, I want to understand what happened, and I want to understand where I am, and I want to build something into what I see coming.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is sponsored in part by National Real Estate Advisors. Transforming real estate for over 2 decades, National Real Estate Advisors builds long-term value through responsible investing, quality development, and strategic foresight.
I went to law school after trading lumber.
In Iowa?
I went back to Iowa. I'd been trading lumber in Missouri and in Iowa, and I went back to Iowa because I could afford it. And Iowa happens to be an excellent law school. So I went there, and my goal was to do something that I could make enough money that someday I could do something else. And I decided I was going to do international law. So I got into international law and came to Washington to work for Arnold Porter. And I got thrown into the international debt restructuring work in South America. We represented Brazil and Venezuela.
How many years were you in that
I was
world?
just there for 3 years. The last year I did real estate. Then I started my own law firm representing pension fund clients. It was a boutique firm. Still exists today. They still represent us. But I always wanted to do what I'm doing now. I love what I'm doing now.
Was that in Washington?
It's all in Washington. We came to the East Coast. My wife's from Baltimore. She was born in England. She wanted to stay in Iowa, and I wanted to come here. I'm very comfortable in Washington. I love Washington. I love the East Coast. She'd rather be back in Iowa.
So walk us into national real estate and, equally important, the benefit fund.
Yeah, so when I started the law firm I started, National Electrical Benefit Fund, which the owner of our current firm, was one of our clients. And over the years, I did all their real estate stuff and a bunch of other stuff.
As National Real Estate or as the attorney?
as the attorney.
Okay.
Through my own firm.
Yeah.
But they thought that they should have a direct real estate investment program. And I encouraged those thoughts. Ultimately, I agreed I would start a program for them. I left my law firm, became an employee of the National Electoral Benefit Fund, and started building a team. So today, we have 70 or 80 people. Then we had me and one other person who's still with me, and then we started hiring people. And then
As National Real Estate Advisors?
no,
or-
as the NEBF.
Okay.
As employees of the NEBF. And we had a lot of people who came to us and wanted us to manage money for them. And we had done very well. And we said, sure, yeah, we want to do that. In order to do that, we had to form an investment advisor, and we formed National and started taking on other clients. And we've been doing that ever since. So now we have over 100 clients. We have mostly US, but we have European, Canadian pension plans, life insurance companies as well. So we only have one goal, and that's to get the best returns that we can for the retirees' funds who we represent. And that's a very meaningful goal.
Well, that's fiduciary driven, yes?
I wouldn't say so. I don't think it's legalistically driven at all. It's driven by the people who work for us, who believe that we have a responsibility to our fellow human beings, and people have been, they've entrusted us with their money. I mean, we have legal requirements that surround us, but fundamentally legal requirements aren't worth a whole hell of a lot if the people that are associated with the task don't believe in the innate goal of that task. And in our firm, we do. They've heard it from me year in and year out, year in and year out. This isn't our money. It's somebody else's money. And everybody knows that. Everybody recognizes that. I think we do a really good job balancing all the many things that all the many stakeholders that we have. You can make good returns if you pay attention to how you build things and who you build them with. You know, maybe to give you an example, upon occasion, I've probably paid a life insurance company more for their construction loan than I could have gotten from a commercial bank because I thought they were fairer and better, and also because when times get tough, they'll be there when the bank probably would go away. So if you look at return only from the perspective of, okay, I could have had a 5% interest rate instead of a 6% interest rate or whatever. If you only look at those little tiny, they can be really big dollars, but if you only look at the dollars and you don't look at the relationships and look at them in the long term as opposed to the short term, you're not going to do as well in the long term. You know, New York City is a short-term city, right? People up here, option trading can go on for milliseconds, and it's going all over. That's not us. We don't do that. We're looking for long-term relationships, long-term results. This building will be a valuable building in 100 years, and we're very proud of that. And it'll generate income for our retirees. The ones that are retiring today, they'll be dead when the next guys are getting money out of this building.
Well, that actually brings up your historical perspective. You don't look at things in the quarterly way, you look at it in the long term.
And we can afford to do that. We can afford to do that because that's what we tell our clients is how we manage. We're truly long-term investors. So if you're going to invest in an open-ended fund, you're investing because you think you're going to leave your money there indefinitely. And those are the investors we're looking for. We want someone who thinks, okay, I'm going to take a portion of my portfolio, I'm going to invest it in one of their funds. It might be there in 20 years. Maybe I'll need my money at some point, maybe not, but my intention is it's going to stay there for the very, very long run. And we have very loyal investors. You know, lately, the last couple of years, most open-ended funds have had huge queues. We have nobody in our queue asking for money back because we pick the right kind of investors and they pick the right kind of investment.
Well, the last couple of years have been pretty difficult in terms of raising capital and obviously deploying capital as well. But why don't you give us kind of an idea of what National Real Estate Advisors, how it works, because you do have several divisions. You have open-ended funds. I think you do some direct investing. You have a data centers platform. Can you just kind of walk us through the National Real Estate Advisors overview?
Yeah, sure. So we've evolved a lot over 25 years, and we're going to continue to evolve. The world is changing at an extraordinary pace. And I like to think I think forward. I know I do think forward. I read an awful lot to try to anticipate what's happening in the world and what's going to happen in the world. It's getting more difficult because things are moving really, really quickly. But so we've evolved. And so where are we today? Today, we're really focused on 4 property types. We're focused on data centers. We're focused on high-rise luxury apartments like this. We're focused on medical buildings, and we have a mixed-use component, which really associates some of those other elements. We have a little bit of office associated with mixed use, but that's where we're focused, and we're organized in teams. Each one of those verticals has co-portfolio managers.
And your market focus? Because you shared with us the asset class, but where are you looking?
So for luxury high-rise apartments, we're looking, this will sound like a cliche, but it's not. We're looking for cities like New York, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., places that have tremendous amounts of intellectual capital, have great cultural institutions, because that attracts great intellectual capital, has transportation, so people don't have to depend on a car, and as many universities as possible. So that's where we like to invest in our high-rise luxury apartments. Right now we're invested here, Boston, Philly, DC, Charlotte, Atlanta. So we'll look in any major city that has those characteristics in America. And we've probably built in 25.
And as far as deal sourcing, you mentioned partners in the beautiful Ellery where we are now. But is that your typical MO, that you will tag team with local operators?
I would say we tag team with local operator at least half the time on luxury apartment buildings. Yeah, at least half the time. We build our own, but sourcing is not a problem. We get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of submissions. I mean, if you think about it, we've got maybe 50 people who touch deals. They've been around for decades doing this. They all have their own set of contacts. So we find deals because people know us through direct personal relationships, but also with the web today, it's not too hard to find, where's there a capital source on the East Coast, or somebody who builds wherever. I mean, people can find us. One of our challenges is to sort through the deals that are presented to us and determine what we're going to do or not do. And literally, we get hundreds and hundreds. And actually, we did a study once. I think we actually invest in like 1 out of 300 deals, something like that.
Really?
Yeah. That isn't because we...
That's a lot of diligence.
Well, there are many deals you could throw out in about 30 seconds.
How many would you say per year that you're involved with?
Well, to start...
because you do have 4 different groups in the other categories. I'd love to hear about the other 3 as well.
So right now, it's tough. We're mostly focused on finding office to residential conversions. That's what we're doing in Washington right now. But we're going to keep in this space. It's there's always a demand for really good products, and if you find a really good partner or do it yourself.
How is the traction in the data center space?
Well, the data center space is on fire, has been on fire for the last 2 or 3 years. It wasn't on fire prior to that. It was good and solid and steady. In some respects, I like that better than what we're doing right now. But we've been in the business for a very long time. We've been building a platform for a very long time. So it's on fire, but there are some real significant constraints that are going to be very hard to overcome, which is good because it's a natural impediment to increases in supply. So I like that. Power being the biggest constraint, but community opposition now is also an issue. When we first started investing in 2009, there was no opposition to data centers. Nobody knew what they were. Now there's more and more mounting opposition to data centers, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get a lot worse, in my opinion.
Well, first of all, you're in several markets with your data centers, and one that's of particular interest, I think, is in Washington State, which is powered by hydroelectric, so I don't think you have that energy issue there.
Well, yes, we do.
Even there?
Yeah, even there. So when we first got into business,
Is it a NIMBY thing? What's the real issue there?
no, well, the issue, there's a power issue. That's one issue, and I guess these are related. The NIMBY issue didn't really exist in places like Central Washington, where you're building in a fairly rural area. Nobody cares if you put a building up that looks like a data center. Northern Virginia, where 70% of the world's internet traffic goes through, nobody objected there on sort of visual grounds until 4 or 5 years ago. That started, and that's starting in other places too. But what's really developing at the moment is people are beginning to understand, because it's only now just happening, that their home electric bills are going to go up because somebody just built a data center down the street that could supply 10,000 of your neighbors. And so what's happening is we haven't really increased our electricity production in America for the last 30 years. Partly no demand. We don't have big, heavy industries using a lot of power. LED lights have made a big difference. The Energy Star system that the Department of Energy put in place has made a huge difference. I mean, you power a 90-foot television or 90-inch television for like 100 years for $50. I mean, those things all made a difference. And now, all of a sudden, we're having these demands. A data center might require 150 megawatts of power, and the utilities aren't used to delivering that. And they have a they're engineers. They're dealing with a lethal product. Electricity is lethal if it's not handled properly. So their training and discipline is, we're going to do this, we're going to do it carefully, we're going to do it slowly, we're going to do it deliberately. On the other hand, you have data center tenants, whoever they might be, AI generators, Microsoft, they're all over the board. We have lots of different tenants. They're saying, we need this now. We need data center space now.
AI has increased what was already an insatiable demand.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch is sponsored in part by National Real Estate Advisors. Transforming real estate for over 2 decades, National Real Estate Advisors builds long-term value through responsible investing, quality development, and strategic foresight.
Yeah, we were at a point where it was fairly balanced until AI. Well, I think 2 things came to fruition. One, AI has shown up, and it is a giant power hog. But also, there's the digitization of the world that's been going on really since the beginning of the millennia, is picking up speed. There are more and more uses, not just AI uses, but just more and more uses for data. More people who have transitioned from a non-digital world to a digital world. Think it's streaming videos, for example. In 2005, you couldn't stream videos. Now, can you still get over-the-air television? I don't know if you can. But each one of those videos is coming out of a data center. You ever rent a movie? It irritates Sarah, my wife. You rent a movie and they say you have 48 hours to watch it?
Yes.
It's like, well, you just paid for that. Why do we only have 48 hours? Well, because they're trying to regulate. They only have so many CDNs. Those are guys who do content distribution network stuff. You only want to store so many files. You want to make sure if somebody rented a movie, they get access to that
And then
file.
heaven forbid it starts buffering or it doesn't come through instantaneously.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's all lives in data centers. So that's not AI, although they use AI to predict what show you want to watch. But that's just the overall digitization has increased demand, and power is not keeping up. So we went to Central Washington.
Yeah.
I started investigating data centers in like 2004. We had a shopping center REIT. We owned 15 super regional shopping malls. And I was thinking, mostly because of Amazon, we sold our shopping centers because we were getting nervous. And at the same time, I started investigating the internet in a really serious way to see how it worked, why it worked, where was it going, was it going to be as important as it looked like it might be. And we decided, yep, it's definitely going to be really important, like as important as the interstate highway system, if not more important. So we wanted to get in. It was like the Wild West back then. Lots of little operators. Nobody knew what was going on. Financing was impossible. And we couldn't find someone that was a good cultural fit for us. And then we found a partner in Central Washington who had a couple of data centers, but access to hydropower, fantastic people, really smart, highly ethical, long-term thinkers, builders by nature. So we partnered with them.
That would be Sabi, correct?
Sabi, that's right. Dave Sabi started the world as a contractor, swinging a hammer. Built most of Boeing's buildings, built all the buildings for the B-2 bomber program.
Another doer. You must have clicked.
We do click.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely click. We get along really well. And we built, we went from a very small operation to now we at one point we were the largest privately owned data center company in the world, but many of the publics went private because there are a bunch of reasons for that, but it was easier to raise capital and do development because public investors don't like to have a lot of development. And having access to hydropower, we thought would be very valuable to the users. It will also happen to be the cheapest power in America. At the time, it was 2.5 cents a kilowatt hour, as opposed to here, for example, contrast with here, 14 to 18 to 20 to 23 cents in Manhattan. And the tenants are paying for the power, so just imagine 25-cent power versus 2.5-cent power. Your costs are 10 times as great. So part of our investment thesis was, one, it fits our climate goals, but two, it's the cheapest power available, and they aren't making any more of it. We haven't built a dam in America for God knows how long. So we've grown from there to now we have 6 different campuses. We have a campus here in town, actually. We own, I don't know if you know the old Verizon building.
Sure, yes.
Yeah, so that's
on Pearl Street.
Which is actually the site of Edison's first electric generation system.
That goes along with your history.
Well, we still own, so we split that building in two. The lower half is a data center, the upper half are offices that we leased long-term to the city of New York. But across, that's at the north side of the foot of the Brooklyn Bridge. On the other side is the Geary Tower, or 8 Spruce, depending on which we built with Bruce Ratner and the 4 city companies. We started that in 2007, I think. Maybe 2006. So at one point we sold that, but at one point we owned the 2 bookends of the Brooklyn Bridge.
So let's
one with the most beautiful building in New York, and the other one the ugliest.
So sort of let's kind of move, as we move through our time together, I want to kind of dovetail 2 questions for you. First, obviously you believe in climate change, and that speaks a lot about the buildings you're building and developing in terms of resilience as we're going through this, because resilience is an extremely important topic with so many different storms, weather patterns, and they're changing. And so I want to just touch upon the resilience of your portfolio and then move on to the resilience of National Real Estate Advisors and what you see for the next, as you move along in the next 25 years.
Yeah, so we have a big advantage, I think, relative to a lot of advisors because we build almost everything we own. So we can adopt the most modern techniques. We can be paying attention to the best technologies. And if we feel like a building is becoming obsolete, not just because of resilience, but for whatever reason it might be, we sell it. And we move into something like this. Now, typically, we hold our buildings for 5 or 10 years. It all depends on markets and the like. But by being able to build new buildings, we can always adopt the latest techniques for energy conservation, Obviously, we pay attention to where we site our buildings, how we manage them. So it informs everything we do.
So speaking of that, if I may, our viewers are listening to your compelling story, and they're wondering, how can I be Jeff? I've listened to your journey, but what secrets, what insights, what advice can you share with our audience who are listening and would like to try to duplicate what you've done?
Well, the only advice I'd give anybody in life is be authentic, be yourself. First of all, if you want to accomplish anything in life, be authentic, be who you are. And then if you want to have an exciting life, work hard. You got to work hard. If you want to have a rewarding, challenging, interesting life and meet interesting people, work your butt off, work hard. And you'll love your work, because if you don't love what you're doing but you're determined to work hard, you'll go find something that you like, because you can't sustain hard work if you don't like what you're doing. And then I would say find something that's meaningful. Just something you like or something that's challenging, that's great, but it's a whole lot better to go home at night and say, yeah, that was useful, not just for me, but for everybody. What I did was useful. So I think people need to pay attention to that. And I think all too often people don't understand the importance of having a mission that really matters to them.
So this is amazing and great advice, but just to drill a little further, how do I do that? How do I get there? How do I apply those tenets in a successful way?
Well, first you find a good team. You want to be part of a good team. No lone rangers go very far. Or if they do, they usually end up on the shoals, or they create a lot of unhappiness. I can think of a few.
We've all run into some of those.
Yeah. So you want to find a good team doing something that you really want to do, with a leader who will give you the reins to make mistakes, will encourage you to make mistakes, encourage you to just go out and do it yourself, think about it, think critically, have independence, and then if you screw up, come back and we'll figure it out. You want to work for somebody like that, and you want to work for an organization who can afford for that to happen. Not all organizations can afford to let people fail. Small businesses, they're small, purse strings once in a while, and they can't afford to fail ever, but we can. So find some place that's going to let you have independence, make your own decisions, be part of a team that cares about you, that you are supported by, that you can support, and work for somebody who's a player coach who really understands what you're going through. And that's how I think you can get ahead in life, and you'll figure it out. I mean, I was a lumber trader, I was a Peace Corps volunteer, which was short, but probably the most meaningful experience in my life. I was a lawyer for 13 years, some of it doing international debt restructuring work, which gave me a view of the world I never would have had. And now I've been doing this for the last 25 years, and I don't know what I'm going to do for the next 25. Who knows?
Well, so we've got a fabulous guest
this is
and an amazing asset. What a duo.
Jeff, this was an amazing journey, and thanks for taking us on it with you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm probably the luckiest guy in the world.
Well, you're not finished yet.
Yeah, we're not done. We're going to get to what we call the lightning round in a moment, but one quick last question. Can you share with our audience one thing that very few people know about you?
I probably share a lot.
You're amongst friends. You're amongst friends.
But I have to pick one. Oh man, I don't know. I've led.
We're not looking for your deepest, darkest secret.
Yeah.
Just mid-level.
Well, okay, I'll tell you this. My last year of high school, they decided that I really didn't need to go to class, not because I was getting great grades, but because I was a very disruptive person.
Yet another theme in the real estate industry.
So they decided, why don't we just have Kanne go to the library? He likes to read. We'll just put him in the library.
It's a way to get you out of the classroom.
Yeah. So I spent most of my last year in high school in the library when I wasn't making trouble somewhere else, and they were just as happy not to have me in class.
We
Making
heard
good
it here.
trouble, as
we
they
heard
say.
it here on Elevator Pitch
Yes.
with Jonathan and Mitch.
Wow.
I shouldn't have told you that.
So are we almost ready for
I
lightning
think
round?
we're ready for a lightning round.
Okay, these are just a few quick questions to get to a little window inside of you, Jeff. So first question, the butter cow at the Iowa State Fair or the Ohio State Fair? Which one do you like better?
So I'm going to the Iowa State Fair in 10 days.
This was a gimme. This was a gimme for you.
I only saw that thing for the first time last year. My England-born wife, it's a long story, but I have actually own property in Iowa because my daughter moved there from the East Coast and runs a law firm. Not sure why, but she does. And my wife has always wanted to go to the Iowa State Fair, so we went there last year with our twin grandsons, and we saw the butter cow for the first time. And you asking me which one's better? Oh, come on. Obviously.
I said it was a gimme.
Okay, here we go. So you like to do, you like to build, you like to work with your hands, right? Okay. Cordless drill or one with a cord?
So my son-in-law was making fun of me.
We might learn more about Jeff on that question.
He was making fun of me because I had a drill with a cord on it. And I also like to actually use a regular screwdriver to do stuff as opposed to screwing in screws with a drill. Anyway, I now have one of the best cordless screwdriver drills you could ever get your hands on.
Nice. He says that with pride.
He is
Great
moving along.
pride.
He's moving along with the generation.
And it is far, far, far better.
Okay.
All right, last one, and we ask this of every guest. Is it better to be lucky or good?
Good.
Okay, I think there we have it.
There we have it. Well, Jeff Kanne, CEO, National Real Estate Advisors, thank you for joining us on Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. My pleasure.
This episode of Elevator Pitch with Jonathan and Mitch was made possible in part by National Real Estate Advisors.